because it was something they'd never done. Like, we were asking to have like drag queens doing splits on the stairs. Like, I couldn't see where the industry was going. I couldn't see 5 years ahead, but I knew that if I didn't do these things now, something's going to change, and it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to do these things. If Afflex are saying yes, and Afflex is so iconic, and we're only 6 months in, where are we going to be in like 3 years? So everyone's going to want a piece of what we do.
From Ministry of Work, welcome to Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds, the show about Greater Manchester's pioneers, entrepreneurs and visionaries, and the stories that brought their ideas to life. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and on today's show we're joined by Liam Heeley, photographer, creative force and co-founder of Heads UK, one of the most exciting grassroots platforms to emerge from Manchester's creative scene in recent years. After nearly a decade working as a freelance photographer with global brands and artists, Liam saw something missing, a place for creatives to connect, collaborate, and feel part of something bigger. In 2022, Liam decided enough was enough and teamed up with Molly Ball to create Heads, a zine that quickly evolved into a full-blown creative community, now hosting regular meetups, exhibitions, and projects that are breathing new life into Manchester's creative culture. Heads isn't just about art or design, it's about people. It's about building a safe, inclusive and inspiring space for creatives to grow together. And Liam, he's at the heart of it.
So I grew up in, I was born in Stockport, and then I grew up in Denton, which is near Ashton-under-Lyne. It's about 15 minutes from the centre, so I was always like connected to the city centre in some way. So I grew up in Denton, and I always had this like creative spark. So when I lived at home before I moved out, this was when I was like 13, 14, I used to like live stream on Twitch. Used to play Call of Duty, had a green screen and all that stuff. So my mum and dad were always used to me just being in my room for hours, like after school. Yeah. Jumping straight on, as you used to say, and just jumping straight onto Call of Duty. That was my game. And that was like my youth, I guess you could say, in school was pretty much taken up by streaming. So I always had this like creative childhood. And then when I went into college, that was when I started doing graphic design. So I knew that I wanted to do something creative. So graphic design was like, because I did computer science in school, but I always found it a little bit confusing. I found like the coding quite a lot. But I knew graphic design, it was something that I could like create things from nothing, basically. So like I could have a vision and then I could create something. So then when I went to college and started doing graphic design, I got introduced to this like whole other creative world of like photography and videography.
It's mad that distinction from going from school to college. I think that line just blows up almost. You so much more opportunity in terms of creativity.
Yeah, and I think it's also like in college, I think you have so many conversations with other people that want like on the same path as you or like wanting the same thing. Yeah,
because at school, was that quite unusual for you to be doing streaming at that?
Yeah.
Like, was anyone else doing it?
No, the reason I stopped was because of, I wouldn't say getting bullied, but like it was just like people were just taking the mick, basically. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I wish I had this mindset that I have now from when I was in school, because if I'd have carried on doing that then,
yeah, you could well be.
I'd have been KSI by now, bringing out raps. But yeah, it was funny in school because I think school doesn't allow you to think bigger, because obviously it's not like if you think too big in school, you won't focus on your exams, and I think that's how they see it. So you're not surrounded by students who are elevating you, who know what you're wanting.
Particularly from a creativity point of view, you're often suppressed.
But then when you go to college, I feel like everyone, as you just said, it's like a whole new world. College is completely different. Like it's not as structured as it was. Like you can go out on your lunch, you can go and do whatever you want to do. I think it's also like college is like handing over that responsibility to you to like choose what you want to do with your time. So it's like at lunch, if you want to revise, do that. If you don't want to, don't do that. And
on you, innit?
Yeah, it gives you that like flexibility. But then whilst I was in college doing graphic design, I started to explore like the Instagram world, and I was seeing fashion creators posting like outfit pictures. So then when I was researching these creators, this was like before TikTok and before videos on Instagram, so it was just photos. So all I'd see is people posting outfit pictures and working with brands, getting sent products, going to events. So then I knew I wanted a piece of it. I knew I wanted to be involved in it, but I didn't really understand how. So I just basically copied what everyone was doing. And at the time, because it wasn't video content, it wasn't really complex. It was just literally a still photo of your outfit. And if you do one post on Instagram, like 8-9 years ago, you're guaranteed to get like 100 followers. It was so different then. Obviously now it's like the platform.
Yeah, totally saturated.
Totally saturated. Like you got to do some short form reels.
So how early were you into that then?
This was like 2015, so like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I got into it, it was very like hype beast era. So like when Supreme and everything was like coming out and popping. So I'd always make sure I got the latest Supreme thing, did a post, and then that post would mean I'd grow and I'd have that association with this new product.
Yeah.
But then whilst I was like taking my outfit pictures, I then started linking up with other creators. They were going to events. So then I started tagging along, going to events with the purpose to take pictures of them. But then because we had a good relationship, they'd take pictures of me as well. Then I could start associating myself with these events. So then, when I was 16, I got introduced to all these PR events, whether it was like brand launches or like restaurant launches, whatever it was.
And just through, I guess, being at that stage a bit of an influence, or by tagging along with other influencers.
Being a bit of an influence.
Yeah,
so it started
which is mad at that age.
Yeah, so after like a month, I started to get my own invites. So it was very quick. One I remember was Dakota, when Dakota Hotel opened. I went to the launch, we went for a meal, and then we got a stay as well. So that was like one of my first experiences of like a launch event, and obviously Dakota, so I love it in Dakota. It's iconic. You always see them Lamborghinis outside. You just know it's the spot. And that car park as well, just always filled with beautiful cars. And then you see the not so nice cars on the outside. Yeah, it's like you can't come in here. That won't look good for us. So I started getting introduced to these events. And then because I had my camera on me all the time, whilst I was at these events, I was taking pictures of the event, whether I was being paid to or not. At the start, I wasn't being paid at all. It was just, I was just doing it just to let people know that I do photography.
Yeah, it's a smart move.
Yeah. And then naturally, my network of people just started building. People started recognizing me as a photographer. And then between like 16 years old and 21, I was just doing photo and video all the time, like all over the world. And I think it was back when I started doing it, there wasn't that many people. I know it's so cliche to say, but there wasn't that many people doing it. And now, I think because of social media, it's made it so much more accessible to everyone to be a photographer or be a stylist, which isn't a bad thing. But I definitely think for people who have been doing it a lot longer, they're now seeing, because there's so many more people who are willing to do it cheaper, the rates are coming down.
Yeah.
And the people that have been doing it for a long time, that we're so used to just people outreaching to them, I think they're realising that they've got to do a bit more than...
Yeah, the game's changed.
It's changed a bit. But if you can use everything you've done and basically like reintroduce yourself and be like, just remind people of what you've done. Like, remind people that you haven't just picked up a camera yesterday and started. Like, basically storytell your journey. I think that's like a really good way of basically like making yourself stand out.
Well, there's no shortcut for that experience. Like the fact you started at such a young age going to these events, that's really unique to you as well.
Yeah.
So no one else can kind of nick that. That's your story.
Yeah. I think you can't buy that experience and you can't buy a network.
Yeah.
Like no matter how much money you've got, if you're not getting into rooms with people or if people don't know about you, your network's not going to build. And I think I think a lot of people do think like if you throw money at something, it'll work. But sometimes it's not actually the case.
Not always, but
no.
So what sort of shoots were you getting involved in? What are some like the memorable ones?
So God, there's all kinds. So when I was in America, so I spent like 3.5 months in America. I was with Umar, the Pretty Little Thing owner. So he, the stuff he was going to, like the parties and the events, like Pretty Little Thing events on, is it Melrose? I think it's where it is. and like BeautyCon. So it's like Comic-Con, but like the massive beauty version in LA at the Staples Center it was. So shoots like that were so memorable because I think I realised that if I didn't do them then, like I couldn't see where the industry was going. I couldn't see 5 years ahead, but I knew that if I didn't do these things now, something's going to change and it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to do these things. And now it is. Like for me to get booked abroad now, it's difficult because there's a photographer over there. So why would they pay for my flights, you know? And I think one of the most memorable shoots, which is actually wasn't me doing photography, it was me producing it. It was about 2.5 years ago. It was a Manchester United Peter Saville campaign. So Manchester United came to us and said they need locations and they need talent. So this was the first time. This was just after we started doing heads. So this was the first time I started like producing things, and I only did it because I was asked. I'd never like shown that I was producing. So then I had like 48 hours to find. I think it was like 10 talent and 5 locations. So we found all the talent, and because it was United, everyone was just like, "Yes, I want to do it. Yes, definitely." And then the locations, because we'd been doing our events, we'd built these relationships. So we took United into Affleck's Palace, which was amazing. Like trying to get that over the line was so hard, but it got over the line. And it was just iconic, like taking Manchester United into Affleck's. I think it's mind-blowing that it's not been done before.
Yeah, 2 massive institutions, right?
Yeah. I think, it blows my mind that a lot of things haven't been done before, which is why I do heads, I think. But yeah, that producing that campaign was just the craziest experience for me, because I think before you do things like that, you think about all the barriers as to why it's not happened yet, and you'd be like, oh, like, I'm not old enough, or there's other producers who are more experienced than me are doing it, or they're not going to be able to pay me enough, or whatever it is. But then when you actually do it and you break all them barriers down, and then suddenly that thing that you thought was such a challenge and had all these barriers against is now possible.
Yeah, you've done it. You've got the experience.
Yeah, you've done it. And this is like, talking about experience, I think my experience of shooting over the past like 8-9 years, because I'd done everything at least once, now I'm 24 and I'm not looking back at what ifs. Like, I have done everything I want to do as a creative now. There's nothing more that I'd want to do, like in terms of being a photographer and the access, like the people I've met, the stuff I've shot. So now as I said, I'm 24 and it's my goals that I had have now all been achieved. So now it's like I'm living this second life, using all that experience and all that knowledge and all that network into building this new thing.
Yeah, so you've gone from obviously doing your photography, and we'll come on to heads in a minute. What's this bit in between? How have you gone from that to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So this was like July 2022. I saw the photography work slowing down, and I knew, as I just said, I knew that I needed to do something as a photographer that was different to just waiting for outreach. And when it came to like thinking, what can I do? Like, how can I generate more work for myself? It was like I had like 2 options. It was either start creating, turn myself into like a photographer influencer, where it's like I'm creating short form TikToks on this lens, that type of stuff, or create a business, like create something that will basically give me a lot of leverage with my photography, and instead of me like saying this is what I can do, I can show it instead. So as I said, July 2022, saw the photography work was slowing down a bit, and then I knew that photography was what I was passionate about. So I knew that if I did something that was based around photography, it's still very much like in my niche. It's still promoting my services.
Yeah, natural progression, isn't it? Yeah. No one's going to think, God, he's gone off and done something totally random.
No, so then I did our first magazine project where I photographed 30 people from Manchester, 30 of the most renowned creatives. A couple of people in there like Steve Wing, Steve Pankhurst, Kaya Buller, James Abadi, just loads of creatives that I'd met along the way in Manchester. And it started out as a zine, so I was going to do a little A5 zine, just like just a photography project. And then it very quickly developed into a magazine, so it got bigger. And then it developed into a launch event, and then it developed into an exhibition, then a 3-day exhibition, and then like taking over a billboard. Just went mad. But this was the first project I'd ever like done, basically.
How's that? How has it spiraled? Like, what are the sort of moments that have triggered to spiral from what was going to be an A5 magazine into?
Yeah. So as we started shooting the people, like, and I photographed them all at my house and on a white wall. So, like, whenever everyone came in, we always had like a coffee and incense burning. So it wasn't just a shoot. We got to understand everyone, got to properly meet everyone. And we knew these people beforehand, but it was just this environment that we created was really welcoming. But then once I'd photographed the first like 2 people, and I realised the impact of what it was I was doing, like the impact it would have. And when I realised that nobody else had like spotlighted people in this way or invested time into Manchester, I think I just got halfway through the planning and was just like, well, if I'm going to do it,
yeah, may as well.
I got to do it. Like, I just got to go all in. And I think it comes from like, when I was freelancing, everyone always called me like the youngest in charge or like the gaffer. So then I knew that if I was going to build something else, because of this reputation I've already built with my freelancing, if I was going to build a business, I needed it to like have that same effect. Like, I needed people to be able to like look at it and still look at me like the youngest in charge kind of thing. Because in terms of like reputation and word of mouth and people speaking, if you can have this good reputation, it basically does the work for you. Mm-hmm. Like it really, I don't have to spend loads of time like, how do I market myself? How do I do this? Because of that reputation I've already built. So then, yeah, halfway through I was like, let's just go all in. So I started thinking about, right, there's like the big billboard at Trafford. How do we take that over? If we take that over, do you reckon we'll be able to get everyone there and get a big group photo? So I started writing all these things down, and then suddenly these things started happening. This was the first time I'd ever, like outside of my photography, first time I'd ever like spoke to different brands or companies about like, are you on board with this? So then when we did the billboard, they were on board with it, and they were on board to like support us with it. So then doing that first project was the start of basically me not just doing content for people and photo and video, but working with brands on a deeper level. So it's like for like this billboard company, you know, so many companies want creativity and community. They want it associated with them. So the fact that I could associate these 30 creatives with this billboard company, that's when I started to learn about what brands want and like association. So then once we'd confirmed that billboard, we were speaking to Ducey Street Warehouse, and they were speaking about they want community and they want to do these things. So then I said, well, I could do a big exhibition of all like 60 images in here. We bring all these people in, introduce all this talent to your venue. And then they were on board, and then suddenly it was just this like really big.
Yeah, that's a win for everyone, right? Because you get access to their space, which is great. They get the people in through the doors that they need through the doors.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And this was, about 3 years, just over 3 years ago. Oh no, just under 3 years ago now. So it was, I feel like so much has changed in the past 3 years as well.
And so presumably that was like the taster of what you've now built.
Yeah.
Sort of entry into it.
And first, like, okay, I can do an event and I can get people in a room together. Because that was, I always looked up to a lot of promoters. But then the thing that I had to battle was when people think of events, they think of music and drink and drum and bass and DJs. I've never liked them events. Well, it's not that I've never liked them. I appreciate them, but it's just never been my environment.
Yeah.
So then when it came to us doing our events, like doing art events or open mic nights or something that's just not a DJ only, I was a bit nervous because
will people come?
Yeah, and it was like promoters are known for, like when you say promoter, you think of like clubs and like artists, but when you say promoter, you don't think of like somebody who does paint events where they put canvases on the tables, and you don't think of that. So then as soon as we did that first event, that's when I had to just swallow it and be like, do you know what? If I don't look at myself as a promoter, I'm just going to keep like holding myself back. So let me just look at myself as a promoter in a different kind of way. And then as it evolved, like we started to do different events, and then we started to do like open mic nights. So we started to communicate with talent and like music artists. And I think communicating with talent's one of the most difficult things in the world because everyone's so different. And we're also, I just feel like a lot of people get ripped off. And it's been, for us specifically, it's been so important that we stand out from that.
How might someone get ripped off then, typically?
So there's quite a few ways. So like, let's say there's companies that basically help artists do shows, and the show will the company will manage all the ticket link and the booking of the venue, etc. And that company will tell the artist that they've paid for the venue, but then in actual fact they've not paid for the venue. So then they're just pocketing it. But from the artist's point of view, they just think you have to pay for venues, whereas we've done over 150 events and never paid for a venue. Like we've paid like once or twice for like specific venues.
Yeah.
But this is where there's so many venues that want grassroots artists in there, but a lot of grassroots musicians, they don't understand how to get it themselves. Like, and this is like a really big point I always talk about. I think in terms of like setting goals and like creative people setting goals and a vision, a lot of local artists don't realise that they could actually make a monthly salary from doing shows in their hometown instead of focusing on TikTok and like trying to become this big artist. Do your own local show, say like 30 tickets at 10 quid. It's like £300. Don't pay for the venue. You'll get one for free. Because you get bar spend.
Get your small local sort of.
Get your DJ, pay them like £100. You might only walk out with £100, £200 profit from the first one. But if it was ever about money, a lot of creative people wouldn't, you know. So then, I always suggest to artists like do your smaller show. That 20 people will turn into 40. That'll turn into 80. That'll turn into 160, and then it'll grow. But I think a lot of artists struggle to see themselves as a business. And a lot of people it's like when I just said about getting that United job. Before I got that producing job, I thought I'd have to be signed to an agency who'd then get me that job, this, that, and the other. And it's the same with artists. I think they think that for them to get a venue and to make a ticket link and to sell tickets, they've got to have like a management company do it for them. But if you do that, you're going to have like 50% of your money gone. But if you do it yourself,
you can do half as many gigs and make twice as much money.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. I think like just talking about like looking at yourself as a business rather than just a musician. Like, although there is a really big, like at the minute, I know a lot of musicians aren't content creators, and it's like a really big thing, which it's right, like it's true. But then on the flip side, like times have changed.
You've got. I always think, much like any business, even like it's a game, and you've got to play the game. There's no point fighting against it. You've got to lean into the things that are there that can help you achieve whatever goal you're trying to get to. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's just looking at yourself like a business, and it's when you start looking at yourself like a business, and then you look at a venue as a business. It's just two different businesses coming together.
Yeah.
Like, how can you?
What do they want? A bit like that Juicy Street warehouse.
Yeah,
they want to get these people through the door. You've got the means to get them through the door.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're not going to pay for the venue because they want those people in there.
No,
and it's what's in it for them, what's in it for you, kind of thing. Isn't
but to me, that's like common sense.
Oh, I agree, but it's not.
No, it's not. And I understand for like bigger venues, like say like New Century Hall or like the Complex Centre, the big one. Like I understand for big venues like that when there's a fee, because it's corporate and it's different. But then even still, like
if their need's big enough, if they really need to get 1,000, whatever particular demographic they need in the building, they won't charge you for it. They want it enough.
Yeah. Same with like Afflex. Like when I said I want to launch, because we did our second magazine, and I said I want to launch it in Afflex because it was a drag queen magazine. I was like, there's no better spot.
Location,
So then when I set out for Afflex to be the event spot, no one had ever done anything in Afflex like that. So obviously I was
which is bad.
Yeah,
you'd think that'd be an obvious choice in a way.
Yeah, but then it's like I know so many people who contact Afflex and Bruntwood about doing events. So it's not that nobody's coming up with the ideas. It's Afflex not doing it basically. But when I asked Afflex, they said no originally because it was something they'd never done. Like, we were asking to have like drag queens doing splits on the stairs, put a red carpet out, and all this mad stuff that had never been done. So then when they actually said yeah, this was like 6 months into doing heads. So when they said yeah, it made me realise so then I basically applied that same logic of just asking, or not even just asking, it's like putting it to them in a way that they want to hear and how it benefits them.
Exactly. And that's the bit I think so many people miss, is like, you've got to frame it in a way that is going to benefit them. Otherwise, it just looks like a one-sided transaction, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So then I started applying that same thing, like, to other venues. And, you know, me and Molly would come up with an idea. She's like, I need a space like this. So then I'd do some Googling, find one, go for a meeting with the owner. And then this would be our first time meeting. And we'd be saying, we need a space for this event. But then before we even say anything to him, he's telling us about, or her, he's telling us about, like, oh, yeah, I really want to do more events in this space. And then we're coming in and it's like, well, that's what we want to talk to you about. And it's funny because after speaking with so many venues, it's crazy to say, but I would say like 75% of venues in Manchester struggle with programming their own events.
They do, yeah.
Like, whether that be because they're not connected to the scene, or, you know, people aren't reaching out enough, or because a lot of venues put in the bio like free hire, but then sometimes I do see the DMs that people send them, and like, it's no information. It's just, I want to use your space for an event. But then this is where I don't think creatives are looking at themselves like a business enough, because it's like, you know, if I reached out to a brand like Coke about doing an event collab, and I just said, I want to do an event collab with you, can we chat? It's nothing. But then if I talk about something they did recently, how that aligns with us, and then talk a bit about an idea, and then don't tell them everything, so then they'll get on a call kind of thing. It's that logic that I think more people need to apply when it comes to like speaking with venues and brands. And
yeah,
you know,
that applies whether you're business, whether you're creative.
Literally,
they are the same thing. The outreach it's a boring thing to do as well, but it's the kind of small reps that get you the places you need to go. And that applies to whether you're a business or an artist, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
So then how did you, or what was the moment you went, we're starting Heads, and tell us about Heads and what it does and where you are now?
So when we launched the first magazine, with the launch event and exhibition, and that, as I said, that was the first time we did an event. So once we'd realised that we could get people in a room together through social media organically with no paid ads, we were like, well, if we can do this through my social and through Heads' small social that we're building, and then I can create the content at our events as well, then suddenly we've got zero cost to doing an event. Like, it might cost us like £30-40 for art materials, but like for that £40, we get to do an event and we get to create all this content at the event. So once we'd realised we could do that, we basically doubled down on doing events. So it was like open mic nights. If creatives were coming to us saying they want to do their own events, we were like co-branding it and doing like Heads with, and then the person, and then they'd like sort the lineup of people. Did like panel talks, like some education stuff as well. We literally tried that, all different kinds of stuff. And then I guess like naturally through doing all these events, we met all the venues, we met all the creatives because they were coming, they were learning about what we do, learning about our events. And then naturally we started to learn about businesses' wants and needs, and then the creatives' wants and needs. And then when we weren't doing events, like when we were just doing our day-to-day and we were speaking with venues, we'd always have these creatives in mind. So if someone came up to me at an event and said, I really want to get into hosting, for example, or I really want to get into producing, most of the time, because of the universe was just being the universe, the next day we'd be chatting with someone, a client, and they'd say, oh, we need a host, or we need this. And then suddenly we've just met someone at our event. Yeah, so then we started started putting them together. And when we first started, we weren't like, oh, we need to take a cut of that. Like, for us, it was something we'd never done before. it was something new for Manchester because nobody had like connected creatives with clients in the way we wanted to do it. So for us, when we were first starting, it was just very much about learning exactly what it is we can do. And then that started to grow. Like more people started coming to us, more clients started coming to us, started listening to the creatives even more. And then this kind of like developed into us being an agency, but we don't have anyone signed to us because every decision we've made with Heads, I've tried to make the decision that the community would agree with. So, and also because I was a freelancer myself, I get it. So one of the main like decisions we've made is to like not have anybody signed to us because we don't want any strings attached. Like we don't want to owe anyone anything and we don't want them to owe us anything. I think it's the best way to work because as soon as there's that like pressure of like, oh, you've only got 5 days left to do this for us in this month, like, it's just pressure. And I understand like for like systems and if you've got a business plan where you're working with talent and it's this many days or whatever it is, I get why it works and why people do it. But we just found like for our own sanity, to be honest, and our enjoyment, we wanted to just have it no strings attached with people. So then because it's been like no strings attached, we've been able to like build these relationships with all the creatives, whether it's like musicians, photographers especially because I'm a photographer myself. So then I've been able to just like help a lot of people and just kind of like guide them in this ever-changing world of content and social, and really like helping them grow their network like I did without having to create all this like TikTok content because you can still do it.
Yeah.
I just think because so many people create this social content now, a lot of people think that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and there's a whole real world out
but it's actually not, because I think the mad thing is if you actually don't do what everyone else is doing.
If you go back to the old school stuff, isn't it? The face-to-face stuff.
Literally. So yeah, we basically became this magnet for clients and creatives.
And so what would a typical client come to you and say, right, I've got this project.
Yeah.
What would you deliver?
So there's one that we're doing this week with King Street. And basically like a Valentine's Day campaign. And what they've come to us for is model booking. So they've come through us to book the talent for the shoot. They've come to me to create the content, so to shoot the video and create the marketing. They've come to us to like the producing of like, say, the graphic boards and even like the microphone where we're doing like Vox Pop interviews to get like the stickers on the microphone. So as an example, King Street have come to us for content, producing like all the graphics and everything.
You can do the whole lot.
And then the model booking,
so they can come to you with a vague idea, but you can deliver on it.
Or like there was one residential that they're doing like a market place, and there's like 15 creatives selling things at different stalls, but they reached out to the creatives themselves, didn't get a reply, and then they came to us, and through us, like everyone will reply to us. I think that's what's been quite interesting. I think.
Yeah, because you'd think they would have still got a reply, maybe, right? But
then it's all about
trust, have they?
No, and it's all about how, like, and even though it is a big multi-million-pound residential place, that doesn't mean they know how to speak to creatives. And as an example of like how we like communicate instead, so instead of us just messaging saying, "Do you want to sell something on this day at this event?" I'll basically go to the client and ask if we can write like an article on each person and do a piece of video content. Yeah, so instead of just having them at the event, can you do these extra things? And when the client agrees, that's when we go to the talent and we're like, we want you to sell at this event.
But you're also going to get all this exposure as well. Yeah,
exactly. And then, but this is the stuff that clients will tell you afterwards. But it's that first message which is the important thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's these relationships we've built. I think a lot of clients are coming through us to communicate with people. And the model booking's a really interesting one because we started, so when I launched the first magazine, Manchester United and Adidas got hold of it. They started using the talent from the magazine for their campaigns or events. Then they ran out of people in the magazine, so they started coming to us directly. So it's like it makes sense on a timeline, like it makes sense as to why we work with United. But talking about before, like timing and how things do happen over time. We started doing that about a year and a half ago. And then I was always saying to Molly, like, oh, I want more people to come to us for models. Because we weren't just giving them models, it was people with stories, like local Mancunians. And then, you know, I was always like, how can I get more people to come to us? But then it was over the past year and a half, we've just made sure we've let everyone know that it's something we can do.
What you do.
Yeah, like we can do this. And like, if you look at our Instagram, you can see all the talent. So then now, you know, instead of King Street just coming to us for content, because they know we do that, instead of them going to a modelling agency and externally, and then they're dealing with us, and then they're dealing with an agency, they just come to us for everything. Yeah. And it gets done.
And it's easy for them, right?
It's easier for them because it's just part of one. Yeah, it's part of one thing. And we know, you know, it was specifically a couple that they asked for, and they wanted the couple to be like King Street style. Mm-hmm. So then instantly we've got people, you know, that we know. So then we just message, and it's you know, we're not sending a big email to them with a big brief and waiting for a reply. We're just calling them.
We've got the perfect job for you.
Yeah, you've got to do this. Yeah. Oh, you're free? All right, amazing. And then it's done. In 5 minutes, it's done. There's no, like, complications, you know.
So you made some comments there about, like, you sort of, you know, you decided where you wanted to try and get the business.
Yeah.
In terms of, and you're happy with how it's progressed in terms of getting model agency and things. But where do you want to take it from now? Like, what's the goal for the next 12, 24 months?
Yeah. So I think, like, we've definitely put ourselves in the position we wanted to be in now, which is amazing. And I feel like it's made me realise that the first year and a half of doing, even 2 years of doing something, you think, like, it's just so stressful. Like, you have all these things you have all these things you want to do. And I've realised, like, I was putting so much time into, say, with, like, I wanted the models and wanted more modelling things coming through us. I'd put so much time into, like, researching modelling agencies and why do they get it and why don't we get it. But then it's made me realise that all it is if you just let people know. Like, you can research all you want, you can post about it all you want, but if you just let people know what you do, that is the best way of people finding out about what you. Sounds like self-explanatory, but it really is.
Pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah. So the big goal, I guess where we are now was my goal a year ago was working with clients for content, events, talent. So that's what we've built, and that's where we are now, which is amazing. I feel like we're at a really nice, calm, level-headed place at the minute where we just love what we do. But the next goal really is, because we're doing so many events in different places, and I want to be able to help creatives put on workshops. But with working with loads of different venues, it's very, not time consuming, but every venue works differently. Yeah. We'd have to build like a whole like programming thing, and there's only 2 of us, so it's kind of like, where do we put our time? So our bigger goal is to open headquarters, which is a physical space, which equally it'll make it easy for us to do events. But it's also like, when a talent comes to me and says, I really want to host my own open mic, instead of us having to like introduce them to a venue, them two not they don't know how to communicate together. So then I have to step in, but then it's their open mic, so I'm not actually earning anything, but suddenly I'm just helping out, which I don't mind doing.
No, but with it,
But if I'm a physical debate, like, well, you know,
here you go, ready made. It's
exactly. And I feel like with every venue, you know, either the microphone's different or the decks are different to the last venue, and then tracks have got to be like formatted in a certain way, and it gets quite overwhelming. And especially when you're just doing it to help, and you're not, you know, because if, say I was talking about artists before, like them putting on their own shows, if I was to help artists put on their own shows and they were to charge £10 a ticket and they sold 30 tickets, they get 300 quid. My commission would be like, say I take 10%, it's like 30 quid. Yeah. It's like, well,
you wouldn't be able to advise them on Zoom.
No, there's no point. Like, there's no, I'd rather just let them keep it.
Yeah.
Like, but then this is where, because I've got my photography, and my photography keeps ticking away in my video, you know, if I didn't have my photography and heads was the only business, then I might have to take that 30 quid and then do it a bit more, and it adds up. But because I've got my photography, it's allowed me to like I don't need that £30 because I'm earning that tomorrow from doing a photography job. Yeah. So it's gave me flexibility. But definitely like headquarters, and everything we've done over the past 2.5 years, we've tried to like tease. So like we've got an art gallery. So we want our art gallery like to be moved into headquarters, maybe where it is at the minute as well. And then obviously like programming, I've got this vision that's like, I want to program it 7 days a week, morning, afternoon, night, free hire, but we do the bar. And that's just how it is. Because there's so many different events. Obviously, if we do that, it's important we have a versatile space, because, you know, a yoga event might do the morning. So then but then an art workshop might do the night. So we need like different spaces to be able to do different things. Yeah. But this is one of the benefits. Like, we've built this community beforehand. So it's like,
yeah, you can then just plug them into space.
And instead of like opening the space and then trying to design it and think about what people would want, we already know what people would want. Like, we've got everyone there. So it's like, yeah, when it comes to like speaking to people about it and just talking to different people about trying to make it a reality, it's like we've already got everyone there, and we've already got people asking how much it is to hot desk from our office.
Yeah.
And we're just like, just come in. Like, you don't need to hot desk, just come in. And because it is this welcoming space. And I think for a lot of young people now, like, talking about barriers, like WeWork, it seems corporate and big and scary. Yeah. Media City seems corporate, big and scary. Even like places like Ducey Street Warehouse, all these places that, you know, I get like cost of living's gone up, but like when it's like £5-6 for a coffee, for a lot of young people, it's just not, it's not feasible.
Cost prohibitive, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just, and you know, there's a lot of coffee shops and there's so many great spots in Manchester. Like Foundation Coffee House is amazing. Colony is amazing. But still, I just feel like there's this barrier for a lot of people. That what we found with our events is a lot of people come to our heads events because it's an environment of like-minded people. Like, a lot of our community is neurodivergent. Shout out the neurodivergent people. And I think because when these people come to our events, we take time to understand them. And, you know, it is difficult speaking to someone who has autism or ADHD or whatever it is, but then people have got the most creative minds. And if you actually take the time to listen to them and listen to their ideas and listen to what they want to do, you actually realise that they're all really smart. But in a place like going to Ducey Street Warehouse, that's just way too overwhelming, loud, there's loads of people. It's not a workspace that neurodivergent people are going to want to go to. But then booking out, you know, separate rooms in town, it's expensive for people. So yeah, we've basically, what our events have created is this safe space that sometimes some people only leave their little town to come to Manchester for a heads event. So we've created this space that's like, people don't even need to know what the event is. They just want to come. Like, the last one we did was a photography and models event, but then we had loads of creatives come that weren't photographers and models, but they just wanted to be around heads.
Because it was one of your events.
Yeah, they just wanted to be around heads. So then the same logic applies to headquarters, basically. But that is the bigger goal, and it's quite like, I've always had this vision that I want to do it self-funded, which I still think is possible. Just because heads started with me and Molly, and I think naturally with anything, when you start something, it's your baby. And when you think about getting people involved, it's scary. And especially like, I'm just not revenue driven. Like, money's not at the forefront of my mind. And I think because
driven.
Yeah, and because when I was freelancing, I earned so much money, but I was so stressed, and that's all it did. It was just stress for me. So then I've got to the point with heads, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna put ourselves in a position where we're stressed. And everything we've done over the past 3 years, I've wanted to make sure that when we get to a point where it's monetizing as it is now, it's through what we love doing. Like, we don't get any emails through and we think, oh, we can't be bothered doing that. Like, we love everything we do. And I think that's so important.
It's classic, but I always give that advice. It's like, build the business you want. So many people get obsessed with building a business, then they get into business and go, oh shit, I actually hate what I'm doing. It's like, no. If you're gonna go through all the stress and trials and tribulations of starting a business, build the business and the lifestyle that you want.
But it is hard to do that, because I think
it is.
It's, you know, we're told so much that, like, oh, you need to charge for that. Why are you not charging for that? Or like, oh, whatever it is that you're told. And being able to, like, not block out that noise, but being able to listen to it, take it in, but then do the opposite is so hard. It's so difficult. But we've had to do it, and
it'll be interesting to see whether there's any even alignment of some of the venues that you know, and you can deliver like the community sort of space, even within that, because you talk about sort of self. Be really interesting to see where you can take it.
There's a lot of there's a lot. So we were speaking to one in Ancoats, but the problem with that one, it was in Cutting Room Square, like the centre. But the problem with that was the council didn't want, it was this basement, but the council didn't want that basement to be transformed because it was something to do with what's already in the area. And like, I know, and I started having conversations about it about a year and a half ago, but then I started to realise like the council don't necessarily see the benefit in transforming a space at the minute. But I do at the minute. But now I do think, you know, Manchester's been named the most creative city. I'm seeing more things like happen, more creative things happen, which is amazing. But yeah, that's definitely an option. But then this is where it's just talking about getting people involved. Technically, if we do that, somebody else is part of headquarters then.
Yeah.
And then it's...
And I can see why, yeah.
And when I'm like, you know, I don't even want to charge a hot desking fee. Like, I don't want to charge a hyphen. I don't want to charge a hot desking fee. I want Heads as the business to fund everything that headquarters does. But when I'm speaking to certain people about that are revenue driven, they're like, what do you mean you don't get it? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't want to charge for like hot desking, or you don't want to charge a higher fee? You could charge them like £200. I'm like, yeah, but or I could just earn that £200 from Heads like the other way, and then they don't have to get it. They don't have to pay for the higher fee. It's very like, do you know what I was just watched recently? The Spotify documentary.
Oh yeah,
and it's dubbed. I think it's Swedish, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a really good example of like how they got this vision and they didn't want to put a fee on it, a paywall on it. But then they had to they got someone involved and they compromised a bit, but then it became something it's not. And, you know,
that's the danger. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to stay true to your mission, then.
Yeah. But it's also I think it's good when you've got people who want to be involved or people that want to be stakeholders, etc. But then equally, me and Molly always speak and we're like, well, if we were to have someone else involved, like what door would we want them to open? Because the doors that we've been able to open in the past 3 years, I'm confident that we're going to be able to open every other door ourselves because we've already done this. So it's kind of like, what is it that somebody could add? But that's what I ask people now. Like, people ask if they can be a part of Heads. Might be someone from our community, someone who owns another business or whatever it is. And instead of me conversating about it, I just ask them, what is it you could offer? Like, what is it you could give us that would elevate us? And a lot of the time people can't answer because we've created this whole new blueprint of a business that wasn't there before. And people don't really know what they can offer. They just want a part of it, which is a great thing. And I think it's down to me and Molly working out what somebody could do to elevate, and, you know, but we're taking it one step at a time and we're just enjoying it, and we're not rushing it. And I think one of the main factors of us enjoying it is that we're not constantly thinking about revenue. The revenue just happens. We just do what we love doing. And to be honest, I'd rather spend my time mentoring creatives and not getting paid for it than working with clients. But I've got to pay bills. But I just believe all these creatives in Manchester, I just believe in them all. Like, so many musicians, being a musician is such a difficult task, craft, especially making money from it. But I see these certain musicians in Manchester and I see 10 years into the future. I'm like, do you know what? Them guys are going to own venues one day. And it's if I can just help them a little bit now, help them with that direction, we're going to keep this relationship going. And I'm seeing Manchester in 10 years, you know.
It's for the good of Manchester, isn't it?
It is for the good of Manchester, yeah. And I just love putting my time into it. A lot of the time I don't see a return on something, or, you know, I'll give loads of advice, but then the person doesn't really know how to apply that advice, which it is daunting. If someone's just started something and then I'm coming in and mentoring and I'm saying, just do this, do that, do this. It seems really daunting, basically, to be able to make them decisions and make these things happen. But yeah, I'm just trying to help people as much as I can. And I think it's aligning people's visions, because I think a lot of people see TikTok and Snapchat and YouTube and all these platforms. And I was with a creator yesterday saying, he was like, I have to be on all of them. I have to post on all of them. All of them. And I'm like, well, why do you have to post on all of them? What is your goal with all these different platforms? And And I said, if you actually just like nail into one, you might actually find that you get a bigger return. But it's not even about the return, it's for your mental headspace. Like, I think so many people are in this rat race with social media, especially TikTok, because it just keeps you on the app. Like, the goal is to keep you on the app. And you're just chasing all these views. And I think for like companies that sell products, it's good because you can obviously get all that like traffic to your link in bio, etc. But for creators, like just content creators, all these views that people get, like, obviously it does amount to things and it amounts to your rep and you get brand deals. But as we were saying before, like, it's not actually them who own this content, or they don't own their account, like it's TikTok. And then TikTok can just take it away one day. Or when TikTok was being banned, kind of like 2 months ago, and that was uproar. But it shows how something like that could just happen. And then suddenly loads of people's businesses, I guess, have just like fell. And it's not their fault. And I think it's interesting because I think your accountability is something you can keep control of, like posting all the time. But your account, it's not actually yours. So it's the one thing you're putting all this effort into, you can't actually control if you're going to keep it or not.
Yeah, you got to be careful with it.
And TikTok's going to decide if you get paid or not. It's not you, and they might just drop some new rules in one day that are like, you need this amount of followers, or it needs this or that, or whatever it is to get paid. And then suddenly, like, your business model's changed. Yeah.
That's Liam Heeley, founder of Heads UK. Thanks so much for listening to the show this week, and please do make sure to click the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to check out Ministry of Work, where you can also sign up for a free trial day. This episode was produced, recorded and edited right here at Ministry of Work, with a special thanks to our studio manager Dan Brown and, of course, to you for listening. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and